to episode 69 of Formidable Opponents, a show that pits three people who have known each other virtually their entire lives in a series of conversations as we argue what is best in a variety of fun, engaging, and critical pop culture topics we've all been debating about. I'm Randall, and with me as always, Bob and Joseph, and this week's topic is Best Stone Temple Pilots Song. We'll start off by acknowledging that yes, there are quite a few popular musical acts we haven't featured on the show yet. Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Boyz II Men, and of course the often-mentioned popular Italian metalcore group Hellslave. We're jumping into Stone Temple Pilots, a band whose ascension we find remarkable, their story intriguing, but most of all, we agree that their music is timeless even though they are and will always continue to be criminally underrated. Formed in 1989 under the moniker Mighty Joe Young, a name they later changed because a blues musician was already using it and owned the rights, Stone Temple Pilots' roots started in the Los Angeles rock scene and soon thereafter signed with Atlantic Records. They had the sound, they had the voice. What they also had was a misunderstanding. Despite having 6 massive songs on their debut album Core, released in September 1992, critics were quick to point out such vitriolic opinions about STP's music. They're grunge ripoffs. They became the punchline to many a joke from everyone from David Spade on SNL's Weekend Update to Beavis and Butthead, all openly comparing them unfavorably to Pearl Jam. To quote an article from the website GNR Central, the connection to GNR being Weiland later fronting supergroup Velvet Revolver with former Guns N' Roses bandmates Slash, Duff McKagan, and Matt Sorum, critics lambasted their sound and bewailed their misinterpretations behind the meanings of their songs. Entertainment Weekly's Deborah Frost wrote in her review of STP's debut album Core that it's unclear whether STP, which sounds like it had crash-landed Pearl Jam into Alice in Chains, is condemning or identifying with its narrator on the song Sex Type Thing. A song that the band had to constantly defend wasn't glorifying sexual abuse, but rather deals with the abuse of power, macho behavior, and sexism. While the Village Voice claimed the band didn't stand out from their peers despite their best power chords. In 2008, Scott Weiland reflected back on the criticisms of the band, telling Entertainment Weekly, "It was really painful in the beginning because I just assumed that the critics would understand what we were coming from and that these weren't just dumb rock songs." That was the thing. It wasn't that the band was too smart for their own good. Some people at the time, mainly critics, were too vacuous for STP's own good. An intelligent collection of musicians that can both punch you in the mouth and soothe your soul. A band that had to fight for their spot in rock lore and just unabashedly continued putting out hit after hit. This week, we're talking about the best Stone Temple Pilots song. As always, I'm joined by two guys who are half the men they used to be. Bob and Joseph, how are you guys?
Doing very well, thank you.
What's going on? What's
going on, everybody?
Before we get started, there's something that I've always wanted to do, and hopefully Randy doesn't cut it out. I just wanted to tell everybody. I wanted, because people always ask me, it's like, Joseph, you're very reserved, you're very, quiet. You don't speak so much. You just kind of keep to yourself. At work, you just focus on the task. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. How is it that you're doing this podcast thing? And well, the answer is, okay.
That is exactly how.
So that's why.
Joseph just cracked open a beer, everybody. That's his 8th or 9th, so.
Don't worry, it's light beer. once he
watching those carbs,
though. Wanted to take shots.
Yes, he threw me off in the beginning, but we're here now. Guys, it's great to see you again. Let's get right into it, everybody. How were you introduced to STP? First memory, first song, first opinion of the band?
Well, that's an easy one for me. My cousin Kenny was actually really infatuated with this band when he was in high school, and I used to always buddy around with you guys. So whenever I was with him, he'd be like, "Here, you have to hear this song," and he'd play anything off of the Core album. He'd be playing Plush or Cracker Man or Wicked Garden or Creep. Or that's how I was introduced to him, through my cousin Kenny. And this is how it became like a band that I heard all the fucking time. And then I became infatuated with, because it was one of those things where it was grunge, but it was also different. You know what I mean? It was alternative. Weiland had a different voice to him. So it wasn't all like, I don't know how to explain it, but that I was introduced to it by Ken. I'm sure he's listening. I know we talked before the show, and he was really excited to hear it. I told him we'd probably fuck it up, and Rand would probably mention Pearl Jam within the first 10 minutes.
I did the first 2 minutes.
I was like, oh, it's going to be a mention within the first 10 minutes, guaranteed. But yeah, that's how I was introduced to it, man. At a young age, I was a young punk who who got introduced to this type of music, and I was like, oh, I'm all in, man. It was my kind of sound.
I was watching MTV once. I don't remember where, but I might have been at my grandmother's house or something, and seen the Creep video. I didn't know who they were. I just really knew that I liked that song. I liked the way it sounded. I remember singing to myself the chorus over and over after that. And even after hearing the song and seeing the video, I didn't know who they were until later. And I think this is probably where Bob comes into play, because Bob's probably the one who told me, like, that's, Stone Temple Pilots, dude. I always just knew that one song, and I thought that video was really cool. And I just remember, everything about it. And that was my introduction. And I just fucking fell in love with that song. And then, after that, the band as well.
Guys, I think we can all agree that Stone Temple Pilots were underrated. Why were they so underrated and underappreciated? I got just a laundry list of things here, but I want to hear from you guys. Why was this band so underrated?
I think they just came out at the right time, but at the wrong time. I think they came out at the height of the grunge era, and they came out with this great sound that was kind of grunge, but it was also alternative. It was also hard rock. They had a different sound to them, and I think that's why they've always been like, oh, they're a good band, but no, everybody's really into Nirvana or, Soundgarden or Pearl Jam or Alice in Chains, because they were like the top grunge dogs at that time in, let's say, 92 at like the height. Really the height. So, they came out with their sound, and like I said, it was kind of grunge, but it's kind of not. It's mostly alternative, but it's also hard rock, and it also has a little bit of grunge. So it's a little bit of everything. And I think that critics at the start were like, well, no, they can't be. They're not even from Seattle. They're not all grunge. They're not hardcore grunge. So I think they got a lot of flack from that at the beginning. But I mean, as you said, there's like 6 big singles off the core album itself. So I think they kind of shut up all the critics and everything like that.
Good point. Joseph?
When you asked this question, I didn't have an answer, because I couldn't understand, why they're so underrated and unappreciated. I didn't fucking get it, because they're such a great band. And maybe, you know what? Maybe it was, Bob, because of, at the time when they came out, they weren't from Seattle. Everybody, maybe because that was like a huge thing. Fucking grunge, Seattle grunge was like the main thing. And if you weren't that at the time, no matter how good you sounded, well, then it didn't fucking matter. And, you were, I guess, passed over. But something that's always stood out to me is this quote I saved from this former, I got to say former writer, because I doubt he works for MTV anymore, James Montgomery. He published an article questioning the validity of music critics' opinions about the band during the 90s. And all I'm suggesting is that perhaps it's time to admit that we were wrong about them from the get-go, that we treated them unfairly. And I think that fucking sums that up perfectly. You all were so fucking wrong about this band. I don't understand the hate or the not the wanting to compare to the 90s grunge. I didn't understand that. They weren't trying to be grunge. I don't think they were. They were their own sound.
I agree with you. I actually, great points all around. I think the Pearl Jam comparison, and we've joked about it constantly, I think it came because of the timing of Stone Temple Pilots' first album. Grunge was in full swing when Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Soundgarden were releasing these grunge-esque albums. First of all, I hate that category, grunge. It's rock is rock, right? Yeah. It's just more of an aesthetic than anything else. So when STP came out, it was the timing. They're like, okay, well, he strains his vowels like Eddie Vedder. He does this, but so different. I mean, I think STP songs were about the love and the struggle, and that made them more emotional and in-depth than anything Nirvana and Pearl Jam did. Now, granted, I'm a bigger fan of Nirvana and Pearl Jam than I am of STP, but what STP did better was talk about the struggles and the raw emotions of love. We're coming off a rock era that's about sex, the glam rock era. Before it was romance with Duran Duran and everything else. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the glam rock, Poison, Striper, and all those other bands. STP was singing about the holistic experience about love, the meet, the want, the hurt. They were your friends breaking down the story in terms of how you can comprehend, but they were not inoculating us with like subversion and exclusion. They brought everything to us in every song. I think they sang about the rawness of romantic emotion better than any other band. And I think that's what a lot of bands exclude, because, Pearl Jam was great, but what did they sing about? I mean, they sang about...
You can't understand them. How do you know?
social issues. But guy, I don't know if you agree with me, but if you're talking about grunge contemporaries, I don't think anybody sang about emotion better than STP. They just put electric guitars behind it, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that 1,000,000%. And by the way, this is episode 69. He did say the love, the meat, the hurt. You know, that's this name's Randall. That's RAND. No, but getting back to it, yes, the lyrically, especially love lyrics, Scott Weiland is pretty untouchable. I'll probably get a lot of shit about that. Scott Weiland's lyrics are pretty untouchable when it comes to 90s rock and roll music. I think STP has some of the best lyrics, not the best lyrics of any rock band in the 1990s. His lyrics were deep. They're about drugs. They're about addiction. They're about love. There's so many great love songs and heartbreak songs. And if you know Scott Weiland's story and his family life and his home life, you know why these lyrics are so deep or so, hurtful or sad or there's a lot behind each and every lyric. And I think that goes along with him being so underappreciated and STP being so underappreciated and underrated. The lyrics are pretty much untouchable, man.
Just to put a capper on this Pearl Jam and STP comparison, this is not the first time it happened. U2 in the 80s, there was a band called Big Country, and they were from Scotland. U2's Ireland. This band from Scotland sounded a lot like U2 and was always being compared to U2, even though they had one hit. By the way, Bono finally apologized for putting an unwanted albums on our iPhone in 2014.
It's about fucking time, Bono. Never get that month back.
I thought the fans would appreciate the free songs, the children, the mothers, the fathers. I was wrong. No, anyway.
You sound like the Highlander.
Big Country was a band that was compared to U2, didn't quite make that leap. And I think that's what a lot of critics thought about STP. They're like, okay, Plush, it's getting radio play. It's getting on the charts. It won Best New Video Award or Best New Artist for MTV based on that song. And I think a lot of people thought STP was going to wash away after that song. I don't think anybody saw him other than a one hit, maybe one album wonder.
Yeah, I agree that percent, 1,000,000%. They thought that they were going to be. What's crazy is too, they thought that, oh man, you listen to Plush and it sounds way too much like Pearl Jam and a knockoff of Alice in Chains, and they're trying to sound grunge, but they're not grunge. But then you hear a song like Dead and Bloated, and you're like, well, that's a really fucking great song. And then you hear Sex Type Thing, and then you hear Cracker Man, then you hear Wicked Garden, then you hear Creep. There's just so many fucking songs off that album, that ended up charting and being huge popular hits and rock songs in 92 and 93 that you're like, well, maybe these guys are onto something. Maybe these guys do have something, because if they are just going to be washed away, after Sex Type Thing and Dead and Bloated came out, you would have thought, they would have gone downhill. But then Plush came out, and then Creep came out, and, Wicked Garden came out. So they were more than just a one-trick pony, I guess.
Front to Back Core is one of the best albums in rock history. I'll say that. I don't give a shit what anybody says. There's like Bob said, there's so many great fucking songs. There's like two instrumental pieces, so we're not necessarily counting those, but just a great fucking album.
But I love the fact that they did have,
and it was their first
an instrumental song in that album when everybody's playing these, tough, hardcore grunge songs and, loud and in your face. And then STP has that, but then they also have a fucking instrumental song in that album, which I think is fucking different. It's fantastic. It's what made them stand out. Good or bad, it made them stand out, and I think it was good in the long run.
As a frontman, Scott Weiland was a showman. Something that his contemporaries like Kurt Cobain, Eddie Vedder, Lane Staley, who never moved from one spot, Billy Corgan.
Well, he was high off his ass. Let's just go throw that out there.
I think
love you, Lane. I'm sorry, man.
But Scott Weiland was actually, he was out there like Mick Jagger, like David Bowie, like Jim Morrison. He was different from the grunge type. They were also emotional and just angry, while Scott Weiland went out there and he did his dances. He was contorting out there. He was having a good time.
Oh shit, dude. Yeah, I think that made him stand out because he could grab the microphone stand and yell into it and scream into it and show that anger, that angst that a lot of the other grunge lead singers were doing at the time. But then he can also move and groove with his type of music as well, and dance on the stage and everything like that, and entertain. He was more than just a singer. He was a frontman. I think that's the biggest difference for me. A lot of times I think frontmen are quite different than just the lead singer of a band, because if you're the frontman, you're more than just the singer. You're the entertainment. You're the face of the band. You have to, you you show up and you show out and you do different things to get the crowd involved or whatever the case is. And I think they did that, man. Which was a real different, really, really different. Like we said, Lane, kind of stands there. One of my favorite singers of all time, by the way. But, there are more just great, great, great singers.
Clearly influenced, and one of his heroes was Bowie. So, and he didn't care that he fucking knew it. He was going to do what he was going to do. And if you didn't like it, you didn't like it. He was still a badass motherfucker. He had a great voice. He can, scream and is your definition of, well, he's doing the dancing, he's doing the Mick Jagger thing on stage, the David Bowie thing on stage. He's not just like acting like a fucking, rock singer. Well, you know what? He could still sing and hold it up with the best of them out there. So it really didn't fucking matter. And he didn't care, like I said, that you knew who his heroes were. He was going to fucking be him.
Last opening question, guys, and I want to make a few points on this. That way you guys could answer this. The question is, what is STP's place in rock history? To me, I think they're outside the top 20 rock bands. I love them, but I think a lot was left on the table. And also we have to consider Scott Weiland's drug use and getting in and out of the band, the songs becoming more and more dulcet. I think the opportunity was there. It just didn't coalesce. They had one of the most important moments in 90s rock, or even in rock history. Their sophomore album, Purple, which I think is their best album. Cobain had just died, so Nirvana was done. Pearl Jam had yet to release Vitology, and STP took the ball and ran with it. They had the number one album. I thought from front to back, cover to cover, whatever, track to track, that was their best album. Where do you guys place them in rock history?
I know we've done the top 10 rock bands of all time. We did that. If y'all haven't heard that one, go check that one out. It's really, really good, except for Randy's picks, but we'll get into that. No, but I believe I had them just outside of the top 10. They are one of my top 5 bands of all time. Like, they're on a weekly rotation or a daily rotation. Anytime I'm listening to music, I'm going to hear at least one STP song. I think that they were, again, extremely underrated. And I know Weiland, like you mentioned, was in and out of the band, but I mean, look at all the hits they had in Core. Look at all the hits they had in Purple. In Tiny Music was another great fucking album. There's another 5 or 6 songs that were huge for them. Number 4, after their like long hiatus, they had Down, they had Atlanta, they had Sour Girl, they had No Way. There was a lot of big hits off that album as well. So you got to look at their albums at whole. There are a lot of hits in each album. Maybe not so much in like the Shangri-La Da album, which was kind of, different for them. The Beatles also did some kind of experimental type of music, and I think that's what they're kind of going for. Scott was trying to get clean and stuff like that. So if you're basing it just off of their 4 albums, I mean, I think they had 4 extremely big, profitable albums in Core, Purple, Tiny Music, and number 4.
Like Bob said, we did we did those 2 episodes. Go check them out if you didn't. And for me, I had them in that list. I had them. I don't remember if it was 10 or 9. So you're gonna have to go back and check that, or we'll have to go back and check it on our own. But yeah, I have them in the top 10 of greatest rock bands of all time. Of the core, so let's say the first 4 albums. Those first 4 albums, each of them have numerous hits. I know we just touched on it a little bit, that the later ones, the 5th and 6th album, because they have 6 albums, I believe. After number 4, they had Shangri-La, and then the self-titled one.
Yeah, self-titled with the peace sign on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, 4 albums of hits. That's pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not enough, then I don't know what is. I think that the
episode 69, folks.
If I think it's a shame they've had 5 chances to be inducted into. I mean, I know there's a lot of bands that are waiting a lot longer to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Stone Temple Pilots has been on the ballot 5 times, and they've been snubbed. To me, snubbed.
Yeah, snubbed.
I think 5 times. So I think it's a shame. I hope it's not much longer that they're waiting. I understand, and I don't think we're going to touch too much on the fact that they're still releasing music as Stone Temple Pilots, even though it's not Scott Weiland. I don't think we really want to get into that shit.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say this. When
he sounds the same.
Yeah,
he's trying to sound like.
Yeah, when Stone Temple Pilots went out and got a new lead singer, and Scott Weiland was still around making music, and Scott Weiland was with Scott Weiland, the Wildabouts, or Velvet Revolver, whatever he was doing at the time. And STP went out and got a new lead singer, and they said, "We're still Stone Temple Pilots." Well, no, you're not, man, because when people think of I mean, you think of Eric, Robert, and Dean DeLeo. You think of Scott Weiland. Scott Weiland was their lead singer. He was their front man. He was the face.
Writer too.
His lyrics again were amazing. I don't know if Stone Temple Pilots would have been Stone Temple Pilots without Scott Weiland. Does that make any sense to y'all? I think it's kind of a shame. I know, a lot of the blame is probably put on Scott because of his drug addiction and his actions and the way he was, drugs and heroin and all that really fucked him up. But again, when they separated, I don't think they should have been STP anymore. And that's just my opinion on this.
No, I agree with that.
I think there's a lot of legal ramifications or a lot of red tape and paper.
There was,
and I think Scott lost a lot of that, didn't he? Didn't he lose the challenges to them to be like, you all can't be Stone Temple Pilots,
Yeah, but they were able to say, no, we have equal percenentages, so they had more percentage. I think he was still getting a cut.
But for the fans, though, it's just, you should, to me, they shouldn't have. You want to go make music, go for it. Don't call yourself Stone Temple Pilots. Now, I know I might be contradicting myself, and I don't mean to take up a lot of time, but I know Alice in Chains is still Alice in Chains. But I think with them,
they lost their lead singer.
Well, they lost their lead singer, but
drummer.
Yeah. But with them though, Jerry Cantrell comes into that because he sang on a lot of songs too.
I think he wrote most of them.
Yeah.
And so
he was just as amazing as Lane.
And so as they've continued, he still very much sings a lot of the songs. He harmonizes with William Duvall. Is his last name, I believe.
Defoe.
And so I can see that because they still got Jerry Cantrell. Like if Jerry Cantrell, God forbid, they can never continue.
Don't say that, Joseph.
But
and he's amazing. Jerry Cantrell. I told a story a few episodes ago where a few years back I took a piss next to him in a urinal, and he's every bit of amazing as he is.
Episode 69, folks. Episode 69.
I'm kidding, by the way. Okay.
I mean that's just my opinion.
They
shouldn't be continuing. They should be something else, because I've listened to the new singer and it's just like, okay, man, you're trying to sound like Scott. You really are.
Can we do honorable mentions a little different for this episode? Can we go album by album? Would you guys be okay with that?
Yeah, I'd definitely be into that.
Okay, so let's talk about Core. Released in 1992, number 3 on the Billboard. The singles that they released, all hits. Dead and Bloated, Sex Type Thing, Wicked Garden, Creep, Plush. Cracker Man wasn't a single, but a great song. Guys, any comments on these songs or anything that I'm missing that you guys would like to talk about?
Man, Dead and Bloated, I know Joseph, that's one of his favorite songs. Creative Little Pill, I think that's her favorite song. I think that's the one she said she would choose if she had to choose best STP song of all time. Dead and Bloated was really fucking cool, man. It had a different element, using the megaphone. I love that song. It's probably one of my favorites off that album. Creep, of course, has my name's in the lyrics, so I'm very partial to that song. Bubba's
Creep?
Got a Gun. Yeah, Creep. It's Creep, folks. It's Creep. No, Bubba's Got a Gun. I love that album, man. I can listen to that one, through and through, first song to last song, and I don't think I'd be disappointed in any of them.
Yeah, like Bob said, Dead and Bloated is probably one of my favorite songs. It's if that song comes on when I'm on my way home after a night out, fucking screaming my head off that opening lyric.
But as soon as you get in bed, you're listening to "Wet My Bed."
No,
Wet My Bed. I know the song in the album.
Yeah, it's not the instrument. It's a shorter song.
It's small. 69, folks.
Core. It has Creep. Like I said, Creep. I'm really partial to. That's probably one of my favorite songs. Probably will be one of my favorite songs because it is the one that introduced me to them. You pretty much said every song that I had, or at least would have mentioned in honorable mentions. You didn't say Where the River Goes, but that's also another one.
What's the most underrated song off this album?
I was just listening today. Joseph, do you have an answer for that one?
I think Sin.
Piece of Pie.
Piece of Pie, cool.
Yes,
That's what
yeah.
I really like both of those. I was gonna choose either Sin or Piece of Pie. They're both some of my I think they're really great fucking songs. This is a great album. It really was.
And some of the songs start off like you don't know where they're going, but they just kick in. The one thing about Sex Type Thing, which I mean, I love Sex Type Thing, a song that was meant to speak out about rape. Drummer Eric Kurtz noted that along with Big Bang Baby, this is one of his favorite songs to play live. It was criticized for its similarity to Danzig's Snakes of Christ. Have you ever heard a song called Snakes of Christ from Danzig? They do sound a lot the same, but I mean, Stone Temple Pilots took it to another level, so we don't have to, talk about that too much.
Or his cowlick.
Let's talk about Purple, my favorite Stone Temple Pilots album. Some of the most notable songs on there: Vaseline, Interstate Love Song, Pretty Penny, Big Empty, Unglued. What do you guys think for your honorable mentions off this album?
For me, honorable mentions, I do have Meat Plow. I do have, of course, have Vaseline. Love Vaseline. Loungefly, I think, is we all know Loungefly if you watched MTV in the 90s.
Yeah, that's gonna be our opening, by the way. I was trying to tell y'all that's gonna be the opening to this episode. Loungefly, at least MTV the beginning of it. Yeah, like we said, Pretty Penny, dude. This is actually, like I said earlier, Core is probably one of the greatest albums of all time because it's front to back. But this one also as well. This one's Pretty Penny. Big Empty, Kitchenware and Candy Bars is so fucking awesome. That's such a great, and then the little thing at the end, the album's over or something. Yeah, well, gracious melody. Yeah,
I loved it.
Unglued is got the baddest fucking guitar solo I think in this album. That song always fires me up. Vaseline is great. Loungefly, Interstate Love Song, Big Empty, Still Remains. Talk about a love song that breaks your heart. Still Remains. Read the lyrics or listen to the lyrics and Still Remains. That song right there, fuck you up, man. It's a really good one. It's one of my favorites of all time when it comes to STP in itself. Still Remains. Great fucking song. For a song in 94 coming off the grunge era, to play a song or have a song like Still Remains on your album, that just really, man, it's crazy good. If you haven't heard it before, check it out.
Remember, this was their sophomore album. We're 2 albums into STP. If anybody asks, why are you doing an STP episode before some of these other big bands? We'll look at their place in rock and roll history. Number 3 with their freshman album. Number 2 with their sophomore album. And at a time in 1994, anybody could argue that after the death of Kurt Cobain or whatever, STP was the biggest band for an era. That's why we're talking about them today. Let's talk about Tiny Music, Songs from the Vatican Gift Shop, which was number 4 peak Billboard in 1996, another top 5 album. Some of the more notable songs: Tumble in the Rough, Big Bang Baby, Lady Picture Show, Tripping on a Hole in a Paper Heart. What do you guys say?
You didn't mention Adhesive, another fucking amazing. And again, slower, more contemporary. Scott Weiland was so fucking good, and everybody complained, oh, he made his voice sound like Eddie Vedder's. No, he made his voice. He did a lot with his voice. He can sing hard and grunge, and he could be the crooner. I think we've talked about it in the past, right, Joseph? Off his first album, this Adhesive song, another one that just, amazing song. Big Bang Baby, like the most catchy riff you probably of all of 90s rock. Big Bang Baby, that dun, 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 dun,
Jumping Jack Flash.
Yeah, I fucking love that. I love that riff. You mentioned Tumble in the Rough. Ride the Cliche, most underrated song off this album, by the way.
For me, like you said, pretty much every song that you mentioned, I had them wrote down myself as well. Tumble in the Rough, Big Bang Baby, Lady Picture Show, Tripping on a Hole, Paper Heart, of course. I think for me, Adhesive, like Bob said, is a fucking beautiful song. Daisy is the song that plays in our head when we're all having a shitty fucking day. Like, if you don't know what Daisy is, go check that song out. It's just an instrumental. But when you're having a bad day, that is the song that is playing in the background of your life when you're just having a shitty fucking day. For me, probably one of the most underrated songs, it probably doesn't get a lot of attention, is Our Schoolgirl. I think that's a great fucking song off of this album. And again, this is, we're going album for album here, and each album we're at least 5 to 6 songs saying, so please tell me why this band it was so underrated, or so, why they didn't get the fucking recognition that they did, or why they're not in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at this point. It's just unbelievable.
And Joseph, this is another album, to your point. Number 4, released in 1999, returned to their hard rock roots, metal and psychedelic. Number 6 on the Billboard. Down was one of the singles. Heaven and Hot Rods, and then Sour Girl. Let me talk about Sour Girl real quick. The song about Scott Weiland's first divorce that featured Satanic Teletubbies and Sarah Michelle Gellar in the video, both huge in the late 90s, by the way. A song so personal, current STP frontman Jeff Gutt doesn't sing it. He says it's way too personal. It's a Scott Weiland song. He had a lot more chemistry with Sarah Michelle Gellar than Freddie Prinze Jr. has.
So they've been married for over 20 years. They're happy, healthy, beautiful couple. How dare you?
To me, that was my number 3 favorite song was Sour Girl. But guys, thoughts on this album, including Sour Girl on this album?
Yeah, dude. I like what you said. Yeah, when I heard this one, or when I looked at it, obviously, if you look at the release date, I believe it came out in 99. So we're getting, like you mentioned, it's a different time of music. We're getting away from the grunge or the quote unquote grunge sound of the early 90s. We're coming into the 2000s. Hey, let me tell you, we'll get to this a little bit later. Limp Bizkit was smart enough to include Scott Weiland on 2 of their songs.
Oh yeah,
and
sure.
They were great songs. Specifically, "Hold On" off of the Chocolate Starfish album. That song is if you didn't know it was a Limp Bizkit song, you'd think it was just a Scott Weiland song that Fred Durst was featured on. That song is so fucking good. Go check that out. Limp Bizkit, "Hold On." Anyway, but yeah, so we're getting into the the new metal type scene. So yes, when you listen to a song like "Down" that kicks off this album, right? It was the first song off the album, I believe.
Yes, first single off the album, yeah.
And it just fucking, it's in your face. Yes, I believe that they were maybe like
69, folks.
I believe that they were going with the times also, but then reintroducing themselves, like saying, hey, we talked about this yesterday, me and Bob, we're still fucking here. There was some issues at the time. Yeah. They came back, did this album, they broke down the door with "Down." Great fucking album. I think there's a lot of underrated. I have "Sour Girl," one of my favorite songs. "Church on Tuesday," Atlanta is a fucking good song as well. There's some good music off of this album as well.
I think Atlanta's got that Led Zeppelin kind of vibe to it that I really, really like. What I loved about "Down" is, the thing I love about STP is kind of what they gave him shit about too. Is like, oh, they're not grunge enough. And then, Scott and STP, they have this kind of like different vibe, like Adhesive, like Still Remains. And they're like, oh, well, they're too soft and they're not even, they're alternative. And so they're like, well, fuck you. We're going to release a song like "Down." And what do you think about that shit? Like, they're so multifaceted. That's what I loved about STP, that they could be a hard rock grunge band and they could have a jazz vibe or a blues vibe. They could be alternative. They could just be regular hard rock. I love that about them. "No Way Out" was a great, great, great fucking song. "I Got You," really, really cool little laid back song. And like I said, Atlanta really did it for me for that album. Atlanta had a really cool vibe to it.
Mm-hmm. Sour Girl is such an anthem of breakup and heartache. It's so good. I think it's underrated. I really wanted to go with that song. I think it's the best song off the album. Lastly, we have "Shangri-La-Dee-Da." I do want to mention the greatest hits albums, but right now we'll go "Shangri-La-Dee-Da." 2001, last album before the band disbanded in 2003. Number 9 on Billboard. The notable songs that came out: "Days of the Week," which is my least favorite Stone Temple Pilots song.
How dare you?
It's a good song.
Hollywood, when I get out of bed this morning.
Hollywood Bitch. What do you guys think about the songs on this album?
"Long Way Home" is really, really, really good.
That is a good song. Yes.
And "Hello, It's Late." Love those songs lyrically. I mean, just dive in or delve into those lyrics. Amazing stuff. Really, really amazing stuff. "Days of the Week" out of mine. I thought it was a cool little, Scott Weiland coming off. He's getting sober. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then they put out this like poppy song where like happy video. And I thought it really worked for him as far as the vibe, you know what I mean? Moving forward to him like, doing better. I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought "Days of the Week" was really fucking good. I don't know why it gets a lot of flack, to be honest with you. I think it sounded perfect. It sounded, it was, nothing too over the top. Or I know Bob said he had a poppy vibe to it. Okay, sure. But it kind of sounds like, a lot of their songs just got a good groove to it. And I like the lyrics. You read the lyrics, they're actually kind of some shitty situation lyrics. For me, I also have, when I was going through honorable mentions, and when I looked at this album, "Regeneration's" another good one, and probably the best song off of this album, "Transmissions from a Lonely Room." Great fucking song. I don't think that's probably my favorite off of this album. I know this one. This is when we're getting towards the the end of the tailing off the last two of their albums, but still some great music.
On Thank You, their 2003 Greatest Hits album, they did release a song called All in the Suit That You Wear, which is a great song, by the way. Yeah. This song was supposed to be the theme song for Spider-Man, but they went with Hero by Chad Kroeger from Nickelback and Josie Scott from Saliva. What are your thoughts on that choice, guys?
I like that song. I just don't like that Josie Scott and Chad Kroeger were singing into each other's eyes during that song video. No, I really do like that Hero song. It does really fit the theme of that Spider-Man movie. It would have been pretty fucking cool to have SCP singing on that. But, Chad Kroeger, it was really hitting it hard at that point in time. And
episode 69, lady.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So, yeah, I don't mind it. I really did like that song.
What song are we talking about? Are we talking about the Hero?
Both of them.
All in the Suit That You Wear, they chose Hero.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about, I thought you, well, okay.
Like Enrique Iglesias, Hero?
Good song. Obviously, it would have been a lot cooler for us.
Cooler if you did.
But yeah, I can agree with what Bob was. I mean, Chad Kroeger was everywhere back then. I mean, he was. And there's a lot of debate on that song. Actually, Josie Scott says that he was pretty much. He wasn't given any recognition for it, and he's singing on the song as well. He's singing right with him, but yeah. So there's a lot of history on that song. See, they could have avoided all this shit if they had just went with the Stone Temple Pilots song. All in the Suit That You Wear. Yeah, way to go.
I'm sure John Oates from Daryl Hall and John Oates is like, "Fuck you, Josie Scott. That's my whole career." You can think about one song.
Before we go forward, thank you is. When you want to compile a greatest hits or a greatest hits playlist, this is
that album. It's everything. It has everything on it.
It has every song that we already mentioned.
Yeah, that we love. It's on the Thank You album that they released in what year was it? 2018. I want to say.
What? Thank you.
Oh, wait, I made
2003.
2003. I'm sorry. I'm way off. 2003. I'm sorry. Yeah, had everything on it. I mean, that's the album to get if you're just new to it or you like a couple of STP songs. Just go out and buy that one, and you'll. I mean,
you pretty much get all of the best songs from each album.
Yeah.
Speaking of thank you, I want to thank both of you because you both recommended last year on the Christmas episode to listen to Scott Weiland sing Christmas carols, and I did. And it was funny because I was in my mother-in-law's house. I was in the kitchen. I was listening to him. I had my headphones on, and I got a little emotional. And my son comes in. He's like, "What's going on, Dad?" I was like, "Nothing. Santa Claus is not real. Go away." I try to, but I mean, Scott Weiland's such a beautiful crooner. I did not expect that. That was really good. So
I think Scott, what people don't realize is how much range Scott Weiland has. He has that crooner voice. He has I was talking with Bob about this. He has the voice that he uses when he was when he sings a song like Down. He has the voice for when he sings a song like
Atlanta.
Big Empty or Atlanta or he just has range, and so he's so underrated. I think we're gonna use that word a lot tonight. Underrated. Speaking of that Christmas album, I actually just I'm waiting for it should be here in a couple of weeks. Vinyl edition. I ordered it. I can't wait for that to come. I'm going to play that during Christmas.
I mean, if
his rendition of "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas," man,
it's fucking heartbreaking.
It's right? Like it's just as much as the original. Like if you're listening to that, like I'm alone, I'm single, so I can hear that song. I can hear that song every year and be depressed.
Yeah. God damn it, Joseph.
I think that Scott Weiland, what he does better than a lot of his contemporaries, is that he emotes better. I don't know. I mean, I love Kurt Cobain. I love Eddie Vedder, but I just think Scott Weiland.
He wasn't afraid to fucking be himself. He wasn't afraid of it. He didn't care what you thought.
Very vulnerable.
Very vulnerable. Especially like again, if you don't know his life story and all the shit that he's gone through, especially when he was a kid and at the end. I mean, god damn, that guy would do a lot. And it's you could tell why you could hear it in the lyrics and in his voice and a lot of his songs.
Let's go to our selection, guys. Bob, you're up first. The best Stone Temple Pilots song, in your opinion, and why?
The best Stone Temple Pilots song is a song you don't even know exists. It's called Only Dying. True story, Only Dying, which they later changed to Big Empty.
I was like, that's not on my notes. Where are you going with this?
You should have seen Randy panic. I've never seen him. God damn it. Like, oh shit, look at him flipping shit around, trying to type on his computer. Oh, Big Empty, originally called Only Dying, but changed the title after the tragic death of Brandon Lee on the set of The Crow. Now, Big Empty was first released on the Crow soundtrack, but after Brandon Lee passed away, in order to honor Brandon Lee, they thought that changing the song title might be the way to go. So they went with Big Empty. And they loved this song so much that they later added it to their next album, studio album, Purple. Big Empty is their best songs and one of my favorite songs of all time. And I don't think there's much debate about it. I do love STP, and I love countless amount of their songs. Like every album, I love the music, but this one just stands out to me. It's got all these layers to it, and I think it's their best song instrumentally. It's bluesy. It gives off that like 70s bluesy rock vibe. It's alternative. It builds to this great gritty riff with the Conversations Kill chorus that I really love. It's got that 70s vibe with the drums and the guitar buildup, like at the 315, 320 mark as it's building up. The lyrics to the song also are just amazing, and they're open to interpretation. But I mean, really, he's talking about his own personal struggle with addiction, and it's like he's lying to himself, and he's refusing to accept the fact that he's got an addiction. He doesn't want to think about it. He doesn't want to talk about it. Just conversations kill. He's like trying to avoid that own conversation in his head where that he's doing wrong, and he knows he should be doing better. He knows he shouldn't be doing that, but he just can't help himself. So the lyrics are extremely, extremely deep, and the song itself, again, a lot of people, they kind of try to shove STP into this category. Well, they're not so grunge. They're trying to be grunge, but they're really alternative. This song right here shows you what they could be or what they actually are. They're a little bit bluesy. They're a little bit jazzy. They're a little bit alternative. They're a little bit grunge. They do have that guitar solo. They do have a little distortion. They're a little bit of everything. This song showcases exactly what STP is, and it's just an amazing song, and one I think it's really untouchable. If you saw MTV's Unplugged with STP and they played Big Empty, it was fucking amazing just to see them. I was actually fortunate enough to see STP twice. And every time they played this song, it was like, holy shit, it's something that you felt in the entire stadium I got to see them in Austin when I was 17. And then I got to see them again, I think, when I was maybe 25. When did they come down here, Joe? Like 2005, 2006?
Something like that. That was when me and Randy were there too.
Yeah, you and Randy were there too on the other side. Them playing Big Empty live, I mean, it's just, a lot of the songs, you sing along with, and you're like, yes, I'm so glad they played this song. But Big Empty for me, man, it just like, I don't know, man. It's got that great vibe that I think it makes really, really hard to beat. What do you think about it, guys?
That concert, Joseph, we went to, I think it was 2008. I can't remember, but that was a song they opened with because Scott Weiland comes out. He's dressed like the Undertaker. He's wearing like
he's got the white brim hat.
Yeah, he's got the duster on.
We were never 100% sure he was actually going to show up.
Yeah,
unfortunately, I know it's like I'm not trying to make a joke about it, but at the time we were like.
Well, it's because earlier in the day he rented a scooter downtown McAllen. Yeah, cruising around like downtown McAllen. Like, oh, dude, he's gonna go to Mexico. We're never gonna see him
again. Joseph and I were like, why are the meat puppets playing so long? What's going on?
Who the fuck are these guys? And then they started playing.
But we were introduced to Sweet Jimmy.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, we met a pimp named Sweet Jimmy, and he loved us, by the way. Okay, so Weiland said Big Empty was about fucking in the backseat of your car.
Yeah.
Obviously, Scott Weiland never owned a 94 Hyundai Elantra because he would not be. By the way, anyone still trying to do that in the backseat of your car who was in high school like me when this song came out, do your hamstrings a favor. Don't. Okay, I injure myself when I sneeze wrong. The other night we were out to eat at a steakhouse and I dropped my napkin under the table, and when I picked it up, I couldn't be touched for like 7 minutes. My ribs were hurting. My kids were asking me if I was okay. I was like, be quiet and eat your mashed potatoes. My side still hurts. But The Crow, Brandon Lee, great song, pivotal scene. Ironically enough, tonight is Devil's Night.
Yeah.
The night the movie took place. So it's odd that we're talking about it.
Isn't this so kind of crazy? And then it was Scott Weiland's anniversary or birthday.
His birthday a couple days ago. Yeah.
A couple of days ago. It's pretty crazy.
The slide guitar, so good. A lot of pain and loneliness in Scott's voice. I think we can pinpoint where the drugs really started to dominate his life, because we were talking about it, Bob. When he did the MTV Unplugged, he looked healthy still. And I think the pressure of, the AR people, the record people saying, okay, give us a number one hit. Okay, you gave us a number one album. Keep turning in the hits. I think a lot of it came to Scott Weiland's personal effect, and I think he started to really use heavy during this album. I might be wrong. I'm sure he was using before, but I think he upped the dosage around this time. The pressure of that second album to replicate the success of the first album, and then of course the third one coming up. I remember I heard this song summer of 1994, right before my senior year, and I fell in love with this band. That minute and 12 seconds at the end. The last build-up for the last chorus, beautiful. The drums got showcased. The bass is clear. The guitar carries. Weiland's in stereo. We get two Scott Weiland. You can't beat that. Conversations Kill would have been a better title. And I don't have sex in the backseat of my car. So other than that, remember, those are my only two arguments. I would just say, if they would have named this band, if they would have named this song Conversations Kill, that would have been my only thing, because I think that would have been a better title. Other than that, it's a fabulous fucking song. Joseph?
When we talk about, we say this all the time, so I'm not going to say it again. This is it's truly a great song. I mean, we just went through each album and listed, at five or six songs off of each album that were like fucking amazing. So of course, this song is going to be up there on any list, and I think it's definitely one of these ones that you're not. It might surprise you, but it definitely shows their range. It shows the band's range, not only Weiland's vocals. I like that Randy complimented the guitar, the bass, the drum. It sounds like some fucking awesome lounge bass line. I love that. I know we've talked a lot about Weiland, and it's because he's the voice of the music. But I think we're pretty much going to show appreciation, at least with these picks, to the band themselves, yes. The drums, the guitars, that fucking slide guitar. Yeah,
Dean DeLeo on the guitar is amazing.
So great song. I can't. There's nothing really. I can't say a negative thing about this song. I love it. It's one of those ones that surprises you, like I said, and I'm sure it's on a lot of people's lists, and it might actually be. It's definitely probably at least in the top 3 to 4 of anybody that tries to put some kind of list together of these songs. But it's songs like this that just show you and just only add to the fact, and I'll probably say this again later, to their resume and why they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And I think we're all pissed that Bob picked this song first. And
yeah, I was like, were we still doing SCP, best SCP song this weekend? They're like, yeah, of course. Big Empty. Sorry. Got it. Stole it.
It's my number 2 song. It's a very good song. I don't have anything bad to say about it. Joseph's coming up with another great song. Joseph, what did you have for your pick?
I went with Interstate Love Song. I had to. Arguably, probably considered one of the best, one of the band's biggest hits. The stats on the song are amazing. If you're into that, topped the Billboard mainstream rock charts for 15 weeks back in 94, a record at the time, by the way. Again, not only probably their best song, but one of the best songs of the 90s, not just rock, but best songs in general. I believe it was ranked 58 on number 58 in a best hard rock song of all time by VH1. Weiland's vocals are incredible, showing his range. He was actually able to get them done in one take, so I think that's pretty fucking crazy, considering how great this song is. It's described as a mix of like grunge and alternative rock and country rock and hard rock all at the same time, and I don't really get that country rock vibe from it, but I guess I can see it.
It's the opening guitar riff.
Yeah, probably that. I never really hear that, but I know a lot of journalists and websites describe it as having a very heavy Zeppelin influence, and I guess I can see that as well. So if you think about it adds the combination of Zeppelin classic rock to the quote unquote grunge sound. That's two of my favorite genres of music coming together. So that's a fucking recipe for success in my book. I think the opening riff is very memorable. The bass is grooving and the drums are perfect. I know we've, like I mentioned, talked to you when I was talking about Bob's pick. You know, we got to give credit to the band as well. We all do that fucking opening intro when the song comes on. We do the we all do it. We all do it to ourselves. I'm not gonna lie. I might have sang this song at karaoke one night when I was drunk. I'm not 100% sure. I may or may not have done it.
On a Sunday afternoon?
No, I hope not. Weiland is a fucking poet, dude. I mean, he really is. Storytelling. This song was written about relationship troubles and his growing heroin addiction. He thought about what kind of a liar he had become towards his fiance and how he had promised to stay off, drugs when he went to Atlanta with the band to record the album, and he didn't keep that promise. So, but in phone calls to his fiance, he would tell her that everything was okay. So this song he wrote in the perspective of his fiance, Janina, I had to pronounce her name at the time. I think everybody can relate to those lyrics. So it only adds to the overall effect of the song, and hopefully not the drug use, but just, lying to, a lover or something, or feeling like you're being lied to and seen through the lies. And to conclude, it's just a song. It's a song that I can always and will turn up when I'm driving down the road. I mean, anywhere I go, I'm never not in the mood to hear this song. I'm sure you guys feel the same. Maybe not Randy so much, but I know Bob agrees with me, and I know that
I don't.
I know that those of you out there listening, I love hearing the song out there at a bar. I think as much as I loved I loved Core, the first album. I think even though this was the third single off of Purple, it just solidifies the band's spot in history of rock. It's why I consider them, and why I hold them in such high regard, why I put them in my top 10, and why I feel so strongly that they need to be taken seriously and appreciated and given the recognition that they deserve.
I'm with you, Joseph. I agree with you 1,000% on that, buddy. I think the music video did a hell of a lot to help out this song as well. The music video was really cool. It had that 90s vibe to it that a lot of them were doing. MTV was really big at this time. So I think the music video helped propel this band into the next level of superstardom. I think they were going to get there anyways, but I think this music video helped out a lot. You did mention that they stayed on number one for 15 weeks, which their song Vaseline had just gone through the same, was already number one, and then it was replaced by Interstate Love Song. So they had 17 consecutive weeks at number one with both songs, which is fucking nuts, dude. 2 different songs back to back. Really, really crazy stuff. The lyrics, again, that are really deep and meaningful for Scott Weiland. All the lies and the drug use and the problems he was going through with his ex-wife. It's just it's a really powerful song, man. I really dig it. The country vibe, I don't know how you don't hear I hear that country kind of guitar vibe at the beginning.
I guess.
Okay. I get that. I love the song. I will sing it if it's on. I will put it full blast. This is one of my favorite STP songs of all time. It's hard to argue against these songs because they're all my favorite. I mean, I love this band tremendously. It's one of my favorite bands. Like I said, if we did top 10 bands, rock bands of all time, but if we did your top 10 favorite rock bands of all time, again, it'd be hard for me not to put them in the top 3 to 5 because I really do love a lot of their music, and this song is a huge, huge hit. Do I think Big Empty's better? Yeah, but Big Empty kind of has a little bit of a different vibe to it, and I think I just relate to that song a little bit more, and that's my only thing why I kind of went the Big Empty route instead of going the Interstate Love Song route. But it's a fantastic choice. It's a great, great song. And I think you're going to get a lot of people that will agree with you, Joe. So I think it was a very popular song, and it's a song that a lot of people recognize as Stone Temple Pilots, one of their biggest songs.
I just thought of something since this is episode 69. Why didn't we do best 69 boys song? I mean, can we name anything else other than the Tootsie Roll?
Let me see that Tootsie Roll.
I had it on my notes, 17 straight weeks between Vaseline and Interstate Love Song and the number 1 rock charts. They replaced. That's how big of a powerhouse this album was, Purple. I mean, just amazing. I would argue that it's the most timeless song, and it's probably the song you want to introduce people to. Anybody you're talking to STP, you don't want to start off with Sex Type Thing. That's going to be too intense. You want to ease them in with something like Interstate Love Song. That's the most radio friendly
Episode
one.
69, ladies and gentlemen. That's a lot of intense talking there.
We're all 16 years old, by the way. Anyway, Joseph, hey, I know you're a fan of Jim Croce. Go listen to our best heartbreak song, episode 4. Yes, this song borrows chords directly from Jim Croce's 1973 song, I Got a Name. So it was inspired by that. So that just shows the versatility of the rock history that was being absorbed by this band and by Scott Weiland in particular. It's a song about relationship troubles, but the up-tempo vibe doesn't give you that. It shares a lot of likeness to say something you'd hear at the time from maybe the Gin Blossoms or Matchbox 20. I love those bands, so this is not an insult, but it's the let's reach out and get the pop fans into the fold. It's a good business decision. I'm not trying to knock that. Great business decision. It's a very top 40 song. Great song, great hook, very pleasant weekend radio drive tune. Sort of the same way Hold My Hand by Hootie and the Blowfish is. But then again, I love this type of music. So a lot of people, I think, would say, well, this is not really indicative and representative of the rock band STP was. But I think it's indicative and representative of the outreach they had as a rock band and as business people. So love this song. Led Zeppelin put out these types of songs too. For Your Love is a great song that comes to mind. So they're in good company. I'm biased. I'm more partial to the true gritty grunge stuff, but I think this is like their moniker song. I think this is the Hall of Fame song they would be walked into once they fucking get in, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully soon. Fuck.
They deserve it. And then lastly, we'll go to my selection. This is a song called Plush. Okay, so although this song has a very serious tone about kidnapping, this is a song Scott Weiland and Eric Kretz wrote while they were in a hot tub. If that environment
together.
If that environment can inspire you, nothing will. Bassist Robert DeLeo came up with a riff for this song in the back of a U-Haul truck that the band was using for a tour. So this is kind of how our first podcast came to be. I was frosting a Pop-Tart as the opener was being written. Inspiration is so overrated. Environment is so glorified. U-Hauls, hot tubs, that's where you get the best stuff. And, you know, there's a cheat code to this selection because both the acoustic and the original version are both so good. And Bob, I know you picked Big Empty and they did a hell of a song on Unplugged, but I think the acoustic rendition in Plush is better than the album edition of Plush. Although Big Empty, I would go with the album edition for Big Empty, but the acoustic edition for Plush is just so good. It's the type of song you want to drink to. Maybe you're watching the storm clouds. Maybe your dog is next to you, preferably a Mastiff Hound, because it sounds like he's saying mask I found, Mastiff Hound, whatever. It's a good, comfortable, familiar feeling of a song. Too bad YouTube doesn't have the best quality upload for the MTV Unplugged show, but I like this song so much. It's the only time Scott Weiland really looked healthy. My only complaint, this song could have ended at the 3:06 mark. Songs are a little too long. You don't need to have that last repeat part, but I will say this. The reason I chose this song, because I think Stone Temple Pilots are a band about redemption and a band that you have to think about. When this song first came out, I didn't give it a chance. It would come out on MTV. I would change it. I would hear all the Pearl Jam comparisons. I would hear all the jokes, and I just succumbed to the media lore of what I was supposed to be programmed to and connected to. When I gave this song a shot and when I listened to it, I remember it was a late Friday night. I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to give it a shot. I was missing out for the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks when this song was released because I didn't give this band a shot. So this song made me fall in love with the band. I think it did that for a lot of people, and that's why it's my pick. What do you guys think?
What's funny is how, the critics and everybody, bitched and complained like, oh, Plush it's a huge ripoff of Pearl Jam and blah, blah, blah. It did win Best Rock Performance at the 1994 Grammy Awards. So I think people were just talking out of their ass or because it wasn't so grunge or whatever, but it won 1994 Grammy Award for Best Rock Performance. So I think that's pretty neat, and it kind of puts all the doubters and all the questions or all the them being so similar to Pearl Jam or the case is. Plush is a great song, and you're right 100%. The acoustic version is much better than the original, without a doubt in my mind. When they sang the acoustic version, it blew my mind. It was like hearing Everlong. Mm-hmm. When they did their acoustic version, I was like, holy shit, that's the way it should have been. Plush is a great song. It's one of their huge. I know the band was really hesitant, which is really funny. They're really hesitant to release the song. I think they knew it was going to be a huge hit. They waited for it to be the third single released off the album because they knew it was going to be a hit, but they didn't want the core album to be considered just the Plush album. They were afraid that people weren't going to listen to the other songs on the album if they released Plush first. It was going to be like, oh, the one hit wonder type of thing, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know if it was the record execs that were telling them or if they knew themselves like this is going to be a huge fucking song. Let's wait. Let's be reserved. Let's hold off before we release it, which it's kind of a crazy move to go with. I think they went with Sex Type Thing and Dead and Bloated came out first, and then it was Plush, which fucking crazy, man. If you think about it, like you're sitting on a lottery ticket and you're like, I'll just wait. I'll be patient. So I think it really paid off. Lyrically, it's not. There's one knock on it. Lyrically, it doesn't have, I think, what Interstate Love Song has or what Big Empty has. I think that lyrically, those are just a little bit better. Tell a more of a story. You know what I mean? A failed relationship, drug addiction, all that stuff. Yeah. You know, Plush does repeat a little bit, but other than that, man, it's really is one of my favorites. I would say it's one of their best songs of all time. It's not one of my favorite songs from them. I think there's a few more I'd put ahead of them, but that's just personal opinion, and that's my favorites, not necessarily their best songs. If we're talking about best STP songs of all time, this one's definitely in the top 3 or 4.
The only knock I'll give this is kind of what Bob said, is just. And Randy, you kind of said it too. They could have ended it a little sooner. The lyrics repeated itself a little towards the end, but that's fine. That's all I'm going to say on it. And I'll get that. I just wanted to get that out of the way real quick because I want to talk about how great this fucking song is. Like you mentioned, the acoustic version has, I mean, it just blew up. It's taken on a life of itself. And I think that in a way, as much as we all love that version, we think it's great. Part of me feels like it did damage to the original. Because if I'm driving and listening to any like local radio, they play the acoustic version a lot more than they do the original. And I think the original is a great fucking song. I think this whole album, like I said, it just only adding to the fucking range that the band itself of each of these songs. And okay, so this is a song that they're going to compare like to the Pro Jams or to the grunge sound. Oh, get the fuck out of here! I don't think Stone Temple Pilots ever wanted to. I mean, they came out at around the same time. So I'm sorry, but they're not from Seattle. You know, like you got to stop fucking people back then. I know now at least. Baby. Yeah, I know. I think now they get more of an appreciation, even though I still feel they're underappreciated. But at the time, I don't know how how music critics were so like obsessed with the grunge sound, and anything that didn't sound like that or that was like or from the area was, oh, you're knockoffs or you're just you're trying to rip off, you know. Oh my god, that would have been I would have hated, as much as I don't like critics now I would have hated them back then. This is such a good song. I think the original is highly underrated because we all, like I said, love the acoustic version. The acoustic version, I mean, that's the one you can play on like a fucking Friday night or Saturday night when you're sitting out and just, you know, smoking a cigarette, or in Bob's case, a cigar, you know, sipping some whiskey or some beer or some shit. It's just a real good fucking song. The lyrics, the story doesn't seem too personal, but I don't care. They're pretty
fine, fuck you.
No, the way that he sings the song, I mean, it's also like some pretty crazy shit too, you know, and the whole situation, when the dogs begin to smell her, will she smell alone? Like, that's some fucking sad shit. I mean, it is, but it's not necessarily.
What does that mean, Joseph? What does it mean?
I think, well, Randy, what was the story of it? Kidnapping, right?
It's a kidnapping, yeah.
A kidnapping. To me, okay, so we get what it's about.
Yeah.
You know, it's a pretty fucking sad. It's for, if you delve deep into the lyrics, it's kind of a sad song, a sad situation with some heavy tone, you know, guitars and drums. But you know, like I said, my only knock on it was that it's what did I say? That it's a little bit long, and
oh, hey, episode 69, everybody.
And what I said earlier. So yeah, but I mean, it's probably my third favorite song off of this album. But like I said, Core was front to back just a great fucking album.
I will say, to Bob's observation of it being not as polished as, say, your selections, that might be something we could agree about, because Purple was your songs were both off their second album, where they were a more polished band, and they were older and they were more experienced, and now they were writing about stuff that they didn't know about before, the touring, I mean the bigger tours, I should say, and all the drugs and everything that came around, everything that inspired them. So I mean, divorce and relationship failure. So yeah, the lyrics to the songs that you chose were more mature, they were more polished than this, but just knowing that this song made me a fan of the band, to me that's a personal choice.
I'm sure it made a ton of fans of the band, because this song was such a huge hit, and it was grunge and it was hard rock, and it was cool, dude. I think that a lot of the fans, a lot of them disagreed with kind of the sentiment of the media and Rolling Stones or whoever said, oh, they're trying to be too sound alike. I think a lot of the fans were really into them because they were similar but different. You know what I mean?
Any last words on Stone Temple Pilots? There's something I want to mention on the wrap up. So if you guys have any anything you want to mention about STP.
After I've watched a lot of documentaries this week about STP, and I've been listening to music nonstop. Again, they're one of my favorite bands of all time. The Tragic Life of Scott Weiland and it's such a, there's a lot of things I didn't know. I saw a lot of great videos and documentaries and stuff on, especially YouTube. There's a lot of great videos on YouTube about him. For them to just come together and create such great music, and it wasn't a short-lived thing. It wasn't a one album thing. They put out 6 goddamn albums, and they had a lot of hits and a lot of great music and such an eclectic mix and range of music that I'm just kind of blown away. I remember listening to songs like, wow, I haven't heard that song in 10 years. Wow, I remember how much I love that song. I used to listen to that song on repeat. That made me think of when I was in high school. That made me think of when my sister passed away. That made me think of certain things. You know what I mean? And this band the lyrics are just so deep and so crazy good that I think, again, we've been saying it the whole episode, they're very underappreciated. They're very underrated, and I hope more people really just delve into a lot of their music, because they've put out a lot of great songs other than just the hits.
Final thoughts on Stone Temple Pilots and Weiland in particular. I, like Bob said, these guys were something special, I think, and I think I liked that they weren't, that what's the term I'm looking for? Pigeonholed?
Yeah.
Into one genre or category. They would bring influences from everything, like Randy mentioned earlier with my song, with folk rock, deep classic folk rock, Jim Croce and the classic rock, and they'd bring instances of swing and bossa nova to their songwriting, and I just thought it's a really awesome thing, and they turned it out to be very many great songs, and they just need to be, I think they should be appreciated more. And as far as Weiland, he was the voice of the band, the storyteller of the band. The DeLeo brothers and Eric, the drummer, Eric Kretz. But Weiland, to me, and when I think about this band and why they mean so much to me, and Weiland in particular, there's 5 voices that mean the most to me in music, and 2 of them are gone, and so the other 3, if those are I don't know how to describe it. Those 5 voices mean everything to me as far as music. And yes, I love fucking heavy metal music and all this crazy stuff that you probably can't understand, but at the core of my musical interests are these 5 vocal musicians, and 2 of them are gone, and Scott Weiland is one of them. And this band means so much to me, and this lyricist and this voice.
The one thing I would like to say, I think of 2 things. I think of, and we mentioned this ad nauseum, underrated, and I think unfair. I think that a band like Pearl Jam, now this is where I'm going to deviate, because I know I'm a big Pearl Jam fan. I back Pearl Jam, but Pearl Jam got the opportunity to not be a grunge band. Stone Temple Pilots were never a grunge band, but they were in the grunge scene. Therefore, they were categorized, but nobody really, I shouldn't say nobody, that's a very general statement, but I think a lot of people still consider them that faction. When they, evolved, they took over the rock charts in 94 when grunge had died. They took over the late 90s when, pop punk was being a thing. And I think they were always like cast underneath the shadows or behind the curtain that nobody's given them their due diligence and their just due. And the fact that they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I understand maybe 1 or 2 years, but the fact that it's been 5-6 years, Joseph, that you mentioned, it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous because they're very talented. Their song catalog is more than a lot of bands that are in there right now. Are you going to tell me that a band like Yes from the 70s is a bigger band than Stone Temple Pilots? I don't think so, but that's just my opinion. I know.
I was going to say yes.
and I'm sure anybody over the age of 60 just shut us off right now. But
they're asleep. Don't worry.
I mean, Rush. I mean, all these bands. I think they're asleep already. I think
there you go. Got that joke.
I think they need to be in there, and they need to be in there within the next year or two because it's just it's unfair. And Stone Temple Pilots is one of those bands, and we criticize a lot of bands. Oh, they sound like Led Zeppelin, and they sound like this. Stone Temple Pilots is one of those bands that if a band came up and sounded like them, I would be okay with that because I would like to hear their influence on an up and coming band, and that I'll wrap up with that.
I just hope that when the day comes, and hopefully it does, that when they're introduced and they're inducted, and they do their performances where they do like maybe 4 or 5 songs, that they get friends and singers that were influenced or that were
close to
something, maybe close to musicians to sing them songs, because I really don't want to sing. I really don't want to see the new guys singing the songs for them while they're being introduced or inducted.
It worked for Journey, Joseph. It worked for Journey.
I want it. Well, but it's been a long. But
you want him in or not?
But Steve Perry had been away from Journey for a long time. So I don't know who it would be. I mean, a name that would have come up real easily for me would have been Chris Cornell, but he's not with us anymore either. So it's just like, I just hope that when it does, I hope it's perfect, and I hope it's right.
Lead singer from Linkin Park, what's his name again?
Chester Bennington.
Yeah, Chester Bennington was another guy.
He passed away as well, man.
Yeah, and we didn't get to really talk about that, but we know that he has a part in Stone Temple Pilots. We didn't get an opportunity, but I mean, we're talking mostly about Scott Weiland era. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Guys, to wrap up, can I mention something really quick? And I know we're running short on time.
If it's Athletic Greens, goddamn it! No, I'm just kidding. No, go for it, man. We're good.
I watched Clerks 3.
I will ask you about this.
I will say this: the good, it was better than the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. That's not saying much. It's an emotional end to the saga. I felt I have a lot of deep personal ties to the Clerks franchise. I saw Clerks on VHS. I own Clerks 2 on DVD. Now I stream Clerks 3 on Amazon Prime. So full circle, it was a very modern, culturally sanitized version of Clerks, particularly with Randall and Jay. Oddly enough, my first and middle name. They seem like very watered down versions of themselves. And of course, they're older. I get it. And I get that producers and financiers and everything said, hey, if you say this stuff, it's cancel culture. You can't say the same stuff you said in 94 in 2022. I get it. And there was a self-awareness of it, a nudge to political correctness. I just couldn't get into it. I know it was meta. I know it pulled into the heartstrings. I love Kevin Smith. I mean, Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma. Those are my Mount Rushmore of Kevin Smith movies. I know we're going to talk about Kevin Smith in some future episode.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I even like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Clerks 2, Zach and Miri Make a Porno.
You're doing it all wrong.
I mean, and then of course, the Tusk and Yoga Hosers and the Jay and Silent Bob reboot I didn't like. I love Kevin Smith. Clerks 3, 6 out of 10. Thank you for making my formative years amazing, Kevin Smith, with quotes and laughter. You're amazing. But you and Tom Brady need to cut this shit out already. I don't know. Have you guys watched this movie?
I haven't. I know since you mentioned that you had seen it, I was going to ask you, like, Randy, is it for real? Tell me, is it
Tell me why.
How is it? Like, is it worth my time or is it not worth my time? Because I don't know. Is it on Amazon? Is it free on Prime or do I have to rent it?
No, you have to buy it. You can't rent it till December 6th. So I actually purchased it because I had to, because I was at home alone and I knew it was going to be emotional. I didn't want anybody to see me bawling at for like Jay and Silent Bob.
Well, real quick before, because I know we're running.
No,
the reason I wanted to ask you about it because you had seen it, because yes, I have seen Clerks was awesome. I thought Clerks 2 was good too. I thought Clerks 2 was a nice way to end it. Yeah. I really did.
Yeah.
And I thought they were able to, I thought they were able to get away at the time. I don't know what Clerks 2 came out. But when Clerks 2 came out, we were still in a time where we can make jokes, where they can do jokes and do
horse fucking. Yes.
Yeah. They can do that. So I understand now that
gotta finish.
Ooh, cake.
Exactly. I knew it. So I wasn't, when they talked about doing the third one, I was like, okay, this is one of, at least this franchise 1 and 2 have been able to be what they were. So because the reboot, Jay and Silent Bob reboot was crap. Like it was I loved Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Reboot was crap. I understand why it was crap, because they couldn't do what they did back then. Or they can't make the same jokes. So yeah, I had a feeling, and I was hoping that Clerks 3 wouldn't be that, but apparently it is.
We should do like the funniest Kevin Smith scene, or
agree.
Soon, like ASAP, like next week or the week after. I think that should be one of our next episodes. I think we get a lot of fans. We're huge Kevin Smith fans.
Very much invested in the View Askew universe.
And Dogma is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's hilarious.
Dogma is so underrated.
I think we'll have to definitely do that. Like I think funniest scene. Obviously, he's a great comedian, great writer. So like funniest Kevin Smith scene. I think we should do that sometime soon.
Do you want to do that next week?
Yeah, let's do that next week. I do.
Fuck it. All right.
Be into that. Let's do that.
All right.
Give the fans what they want. That's what we want, but it's okay. I'm sure they'll.
Sorry for those of you who like Hootie and the Blowfish. We're gonna have to postpone the best Hootie.
I only want to be with you.
I know. Little time.
I took up a lot of time on that one, but do you guys have any final words? Anything you want to recommend? Say,
get your 8 hours of sleep, eat your vitamins. Check your Halloween candy, because we all know that drug addicts love to give away their drugs.
Oh yeah. So should we just like be in the now and say tomorrow's Halloween, everybody?
Tomorrow's Halloween, yes. Everybody. Have a great
tomorrow's our Halloween. Enjoy it. I know you're all probably listening to this the day after Halloween, but I hope it was a great one. Make sure everything's good.
And your stomach hurts. You shouldn't eat that many peanut butter cups, cabrones.
Excellent, guys. And I know next week we're probably going to be doing a lot of editing, because I think we're just going to laugh our asses off talking about Kevin Smith scenes, because he's incredible. We love you, Kevin Smith, and we know you don't listen. You're an awesome podcaster, but
he's going to say, what the fuck did they say about Clerks 3?
Fuck those fucking guys.
Fuck those assholes.
That's our show, everyone. Listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Hit us up and let us know what your favorite Stone Temple Pilots song is. Most importantly, let us know what you think about the show. You may reach us at formidableopponents@gmail.com. You can follow us on all forms of social media by searching for Formidable Opponents. We want to thank Creative Little Pill for her awesome artwork. Please follow her on Instagram at Creative Little Pill. Please rate and review us on Apple and Spotify, and join us next episode. You just heard it. We will be debating best Kevin Smith scene. So for Bob and Joseph, this is Randall. We'll see you all next time.
Ooh.